Hello, folks. We're just going to give everybody an opportunity to get logged in, to get themselves comfy. Make sure your audio is working. And I will let you know that we are going to record today's session and it will be going on our YouTube channel. So if you're not comfy with possibly having your face pop up in the side, if you want to turn off your camera, however, I'm comfy if you want to be there. So whatever you prefer, but I just like to disclose that to you. Right, Jenny, if you want to move to the next slide, I will talk about today's agenda in this session. So what we're looking at, we have three main things we're going to be touching base on. We're going to talk a bit about Qtric's vision, give you a little bit of background, where things are going to go from here. Then we're going to have a presentation by TransDev today. And then I will talk about next steps as we're going forward. Jenny, you can go to the next slide for me. I'm going to start off with a little bit of history before I start talking about our vision forward. So talking about our history, we're going to talk about Qtric's National Smart Vehicle Demonstration and Integration Trial that started in 2017. So that was launched with working groups in 2017, and we had lots of engaged organizations. There was actually 19 folks that were interested at that point. In 2018 until 2020, we were involved with the Advanced Connectivity and Automation in the Transportation System. So ACATS is how I refer to it. We worked with ACATS. That announcement happened on August 10th of 2018, and that project was completed in January of 2020. This funding allowed Qtric to complete research that demonstrates the opportunities and challenges associated with autonomous shuttle deployments in Canada. Qtric modeled routes that were used of electric low-speed automated shuttles in 9 different Canadian jurisdictions. And this modeling helped the consortium analyze feasibility, route timing, charger requirements, energy consumption, and ridership. And these models are able to be used with municipalities to help better understand how shuttles could be used as a first kilometer, last kilometer solution. And from 2020 to 2023, we dived into planning work with YRT as the champion of that project. We did the planning work with YRT, and now we are here today. So Jenny, if you want to flip to the next slide. So what we've actually done, we have actually closed our National Smart Vehicle and Demonstration Integration Trial project. We did this because we've decided that there's essentially 2 routes forward when we look at the automated and autonomous features. So we have divided that project essentially into 2 streams. We have what we're talking about today, the Autonomous Vehicle Demonstration Project, and we have the Pan-Canadian Bus Demonstration and Integration Trial, phase 3. So a lot of folks have heard of our phase 1, which is successfully closed, our phase 2, which we're working on actively now. We've also identified a phase 3 for this particular project. So as I look at these a bit, so the Autonomous Vehicle Demonstration Project, we're excited to be able to launch into looking at this demonstration project, partnering with a university. We've actually already started the outreach there to be able to think about on-campus autonomous shuttles as a solution. We also have had conversation around autonomous buses. That is where we have divided off, and Jenny, that's what you'll see her wonderful face here on screen, is going to be leading that phase 3 of the project. In that particular project, we're looking at autonomous driving level 4 in depot is what we're thinking. So both of these projects are going to have a 6-part as we're moving forward. So it's going to be starting with member engagement and innovation alignment. So really being able to look at what our members are looking for and how the technology is going to complement that. Then we're going to be able to do a technology assessment and gap analysis. Moving forward, then we're going to be looking at partnership agreements and funding opportunities to be able to fund these projects. And then we're going to look at retrofitting and integrating this technology. And then what we're excited about is being able to look at performance monitoring and data collection. And ideally, in the end, we're going to be able to create something to be able to scale and have long-term implementation plans. So being able to set this up that other folks are able to take what we have learned and be able to have their own routes and things of that nature that they'll be able to use. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn to Camille with TransDev for a presentation today and to talk a bit about the technology.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Camille. I'm Senior Vice President, Strategy and Business Development at TransDev Canada. And we're going to talk today about, some experiences and experiments we've done in terms of autonomous mobility at TransDev in different parts of the world. And of course, the idea is also to trigger, discussion and questions and maybe crazy ideas after that. So just a few words about TransDev. If we go to the next slide, thanks a lot, Jenny. Just a key word about TransDev is that we operate public mobility services on behalf of public transit authorities. So the way we look at autonomous mobility is always under the banner of how does it serve the common good. That's very important that it being integrated in our logic, in our purpose, so that it always serves, the community needs and what we call the common good as a whole. So on the next slide, you will see that we have a large presence around the world at TransDev. The idea here is not to say, hey, we're big, we have a lot of experience and so on and so on. It's just to highlight the fact that when we think about autonomous mobility, we think about it in terms of intermodal systems. We believe autonomous shuttles, autonomous modes, autonomous services have to be part of an intermodal system, an integrated system in a global transit networks. Here in Canada, TransDev operates multiple transit networks, but also school bus systems, medical transportation systems. And when we think about autonomy, it's in the logic of how does it serve intermodality, modal shift for people? How can it be definitely integrated into a public service of shared mobility? So on the next slide, just a few, concepts around how autonomous mobility, autonomous shuttles, autonomous services will actually really contribute to that. There's a common belief sometimes that as a public transit operator, we are looking to replace drivers in buses with autonomous services. This is not what we look for. What we look for is actually the opportunity with autonomous shuttles or services to extend the public transit offer in time and space. Because where it may not be relevant to have, a big bus with a driver at night, for instance, in certain areas or in low densely populated areas, autonomous mobility will allow this in the future. The other piece, of course, is that it will support, because when we think about autonomous shuttles or autonomous mobility, we think about electric vehicles systematically. And the last piece is of course, about safety. This is definitely an opportunity to improve the global public transportation system in terms of safety, because, I think it's now highly demonstrated that autonomous shuttle will allow for much more safety on the road. So on the next slide, we have, an overview of what we did so far in terms of developments and deployments. So many experiments around the world in different climates, different contexts, different environments, and a lot of different technologies deployed. The idea to test all the technologies that are available in the different autonomous vehicles or shuttles that you can find on the market today or that are being worked on in terms of research, is that working with the technology providers allows to design requests that adapt to public transportation constraints. So whether it be on safety, on acceptability by the passengers, in terms of service design, things like that, to really adapt and to make the constraints of public transit match what are the capacity of the technology providers. That's where we position ourselves on the next slide on how those vehicles and those shuttles will actually be operated as a service for the community. And this is where we have developed something that may not be so much known, it's a supervision system. This is where we have the human beings actually making decisions with autonomous shuttles and autonomous services. You have a remote system of supervision and control of this. And above all, what the supervision center does and what our operators, human beings, do in this center is actually making sure that the autonomous services are integrated and intermodal with the public transit traditional modes. Going to the next slide, that's where then we are making sure that between the technology providers and very, very powerful technologies and between the public needs, we make these two visions match and be actually efficient, and in the framework of service for the public, this is where we intervene. I'm going a bit fast because I think the most interesting part are actually the real and concrete experiments. So Jenny, we can definitely move on to the next slide. I will just speak about 3 or 4 of the experiments we have been rolling out in the world in the recent months and recent 24 months, I would say, with different characteristics, different environments, but different learnings as well in terms of how it worked and how it sometimes didn't work so well. So on the next slide, you will have a first example of something that has been done for the past 15 years. This is in the Netherlands. You already have in the Netherlands for the past 15 years a first mile, last mile solution operated by autonomous shuttles. So this is a service that make the liaison between a metro station and a business park. Of course, those shuttles are on dedicated lanes. This is not mixed traffic, and so on and so on. This is not a highly complex environment, but these are autonomous shuttles running for 15 years without operators on board, with new vehicles, and it's working very well. So in terms of first mile, last mile with autonomous shuttles, it already exists. It's possible. It's possible today in a very simple environment, dedicated lanes. Nobody can cross the street at the same time of the shuttle. Now, if we go into more complex environments, on the next slide, we have been experimenting another level of complexity, which is a public road, but with restricted traffic. So this service is a first mile, last mile between public car park and a hospital, very, very huge hospital, very, very huge medical center in France. And you have, then again, without onboard supervisor, without safety driver inside the vehicles, you have this service of first mile, last mile operating for the public with a certain level of complexity of traffic. You have pedestrians, cyclists, some cars, but not big trucks like you can find on the highway. That's the idea. Now, if we go into something a little bit different on the next slide, this is, of course, not the typical first mile, last mile solution. But it's still interesting to know that it's actually working very well in terms of technology, but there's still work to do in terms of how we can contribute to make it match some of the public transportation constraints and parameters. Today, Transdev works with Waymo, which are developing robotaxis in large cities in the US. This is very effective. This is an on-demand service. This is an Uber-like service. But what is interesting is that you have Transdev as the public transit operator providing safety services for this, like safety drivers, like managing how the vehicles behave in the depots and things like that. And this is important because when you go until I would say the extreme case of autonomous shuttles delivering services everywhere, then you can bring back this knowledge to public transit and the way it works in public transit. And you can then imagine robotaxis functioning in an area as first mile, last mile at the end of a metro station or the end of a light rail station or even a bus station in a low densely populated areas, for instance. The last piece, the last experiment I would mention is actually something that is very interesting because you have a high level of complexity in a mixed environment with really a diverse traffic that has to be managed, but on a certain perimeter. This perimeter is that of, gated communities or campuses or university areas. And there we have on this site, which is, I would say a safe site, because we're talking about Ariane Group, which is, we are in the aerospatial kind of business area, but still you have a lot of traffic there. And those shuttles are dedicated to, moving the employees in these very, very large business parks. But then again, without operator on board, with a remote supervision center. And this is, this is working well. The thing is that you need a very, very strong collaboration between multiple stakeholders. And this is kind of always the same lesson that we get from all these experiments. It's the strong level of collaboration that it requires from the different stakeholders involved in this project, which is quite a large circle always for autonomous mobility. So as a kind of conclusion, and just let me know if I'm completely out of time here or if I need to rush a bit. As a conclusion on the next slide, definitely what could be ahead here in Canada. There have been some experiments already. There is knowledge, there is capacity. What we believe from what we've seen is that we need now to have, strong objectives in terms of delivering commercial services. We are at kind of a stage where we can definitely go out of the experimental phase. We can actually tackle the topic of delivering commercial services for passengers, for public transit in Canada. That's a strong objective, but that's the right moment. Something that is key as well, it's the duration. When you experiment autonomous mobility, autonomous shuttles for 2 to 3 months, you learn a lot, but you don't learn over a long period of time. So you miss a lot of things. The long period of time of pilots or of implementation of such projects is really critical to make sure that we get, enough data to design a sustainable business model. So the duration of a project is always critical. And as I mentioned before, partnership. Nobody can do it alone. We have to be, to create a circle of multiple stakeholders and very diverse stakeholders to make sure that this is actually working. So what can we do technically with this? On this final slide, we already have infrastructure in Canada that is capable of welcoming autonomous shuttles. We have them. They exist. Of course, they would need, some maybe some works and so on, but this is possible. Putting an autonomous shuttle as a first mile, last mile on a restricted environment, this is definitely possible. In a depot, this is definitely possible today. The second piece is that we have here in Canada a lot of resources in terms of artificial intelligence. We have a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, and there's no reason why we could not capitalize on this to have a very, very important, powerful technology integrated into transportation as of today. And partnerships, of course. This is the thing about having public authorities for sure, operators, financial institutions at some point maybe, but also academics and universities, because this always has to be taken as a holistic system, and it has to be an ecosystem definitely of partners around it. And I think this is it.
Thank you very much, Camille. I appreciate your time and the wonderful presentation of where the technology is currently. So in our next slide, Jenny, if you want to move forward, we're talking here about next steps. So as we look at next steps, we're looking to be able to confirm partnerships, and the interested folks we'd be looking for universities. Ideally, it would be great to have the transit agency that's within the area of that university interested as well, and manufacturers or operators. And then we'll be defining the objective and the scope of this demonstration project. We do have these already drafted, but we're very aware that the individual needs of project partners are going to be priority items. So there will be some adjustments and some modifications that we can make to that. And then we'll be identifying funding opportunities. This is going to be a very large element, and this may include an opportunity for some lobbying in areas where we're seeing a lack of funding to be able to move these items forward. Then some public information campaign. So launching a bit of a public campaign with information about the project. We want to be able to paint this in a very exciting light, especially, given some of the media attention around these items are not always the most exciting. So we want to be able to push some very positive messaging out there. And then moving on to actually conducting the demonstration project with that continuous monitoring and data collection. And then we'll be looking at analyzing the data that we've received and preparing a very comprehensive report on the outcomes. Obviously, the project partners who are firsthand will have first opportunity and the most detailed information. We'll be disseminating it down from there. And then again, scaling and future planning. We want alternatively here, what we're really hoping as a result of this project, we'll be able to have a template that can be used by other universities, transit agencies going forward. And as well, if you remember on that previous slide where we talked about looking at funding opportunities so we can support those as well. So that is what I have from my side. I want to thank everyone who was able to join today. I highly encourage on the last slide, you will see my email address, but I will also put it in the chat today. If anyone has an interest, I would be excited to hear from you and be able to have some discussions on what that looks like. And I'm going to turn it over to Jenny, who's going to speak very briefly about some of our upcoming events here at QTRIC. And thank you all very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to invite you all to our annual Zero Emission Transit and Mobility Conference. It's coming up soon. Same as last year, our conference this year is being hosted at the Burlington Convention Center in Ontario. This is an event that brings together Canada's leading transit experts, business leaders, and thought leaders. We're expecting an excellent turnout of over 200 in-person attendees, and I can share that we are almost sold out with just a few weeks to go. So if you're interested in attending, I highly recommend securing your seat as soon as possible. I will post the link to our registration in a bit. You'll also see on the screen here some of the pricing for ticket purchase. These are member pricing, but you can also find the non-member pricing at the registration page. We're also still accepting sponsorship. If you're interested, please contact me or my colleague Fatima. And then hold on, let me just send that. Okay. And please save the date for our virtual Smart Trail Innovation Conference in 2025. That's happening on March 19th next year. Last year's conference was a great success, so this is virtual. So everyone in Canada can join without difficulty in traveling. Last year, we had Ontario's Minister of Transportation, Minister Sarkaria, as well as the City of Toronto's Mayor Olivia Chow. So we're also going to build an exciting lineup of speakers and panel discussions this year. So stay tuned. We'll announce further updates through our website, LinkedIn, and newsletters. That's it for me, Jess. I'm flashing here your email address.
Perfect. So you'll see my email on the screen if you're not able to see it on chat. And just another opportunity to thank you all for attending. And hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Have a good day.